Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The game has been out barely 24 hours, but already gentlemen's agreements are certainly on the agenda. OpTic TTK has suggested that the pros GA all the powerful weapons and just use the weak ones to ensure the time to kill isn't super fast when it comes to the actual competitive gameplay. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Thought this is pretty funny from Bance and Crib. To start things off, firstly, this from iLLeY, because yesterday we saw that, of course, it was iLLeY, Shotzzy, Brandon, that being Dashy, playing in the S&D kickoffs. No Scump, what's going on there? Turns out he was in LA for an Oakley shoot, as you can see right here. I'm pretty sure that was the situation. So, yeah, he was out in LA, I think, for this Oakley thing, so that's why he can't play the kickoffs last night. Might be back in a couple of days to get his hands on the game, but of course, he knows what it's going to be like. He saw what happened back in the beta. Now, just to say this from OpTic as well, because the process they're doing today, the process run it back. So, yeah, I guess run it back for the upcoming season. Now, this is a look back, I suppose, at last season, how everything went, and it's going to be a really interesting and insightful episode, I'm sure, and I'm sure Rokkr wants to finish out on a high. I didn't realize Rokkr was stepping away from doing Vision, or doing the process as it was now. Vision was Hitch's thing, the process is, of course, Rokkr's thing, but as Rokkr says, my last process, he's now going to be handing over to Shorstin, saying that he's still going to be there, and the process is still going to be there, but I'm excited to pass it over and see, you know, him get it to where I never could. More episodes, better storytelling. So interesting time. I mean, this trailer is an absolute banger. So, you know, getting me pretty excited for this episode for sure. But next season, it seems there's going to be a different man behind the camera, and then what Rokkr does is kind of still unclear. So that's the update on that side of things. This also, because many people were talking about this, I even mentioned it for you guys yesterday, that indeed the CWL trophy is in the game on the Crown Raceway. Now, as I even said yesterday, and I still believe this, that I reckon the developers thought this was actually still the trophy. Like, and even Crone said in reply to me, I think actually he said here somewhere, that like, yeah, maybe they just Google it like this, Conchamps Trophy, and just found, I mean, if you Google Conchamps Trophy, you find the top, well, 5 of the top 6 images are the old school one, and this is the new one, and they were thought, yeah, it can't be that looks terrible, let's just put this one into the game. And it's cool that it's in the game, but it's just kind of funny, really, because if they wanted to actually try and pretend that they cared about competitive, they could have at least put the actual CWL Champs Trophy in there, but I actually think I prefer this as it is now, kind of looking back to the past, a short view back to the past and all that. And well, let's talk about top 3 pros from Modern Warfare, or from Vanguard going into Modern Warfare 2. We saw Shotzzy was number 4 earlier today. This to me was the biggest surprise on the list, that Dashy was 3rd. I didn't vote in this list personally. I thought I'll let the other guys vote in it. I believe it was incredibly tight here between Dashy and Pred for 3rd and 2nd. Like, there was a bit of debate about it. I think Dashy was almost 2nd, like it was super tight. Cell was clear number 1, but Dashy was very close to number 2, but he actually got 3rd in the end, and Pred, of course, gets number 2. We'll see here in a second. So, yeah, I don't know what you guys think about this, because OpTic, of course, had great success for a large part of the season. I personally would have Dashy 2nd, in my opinion, because Pred, albeit a very good player, and certainly at his peak performance, was probably the most impactful SMG in the entire game. But, you know, obviously Shotzzy was there for part of the year, but towards the end, Pred took over kind of when it mattered more, you could argue, to a certain degree. And, yeah, but to me, Dashy, I think I'd still put him number 2. The numbers, the consistency, the impact were just different level. And Pred also had his fair share of top 12 placings, so I think you've got to factor that in as well. But Dashy gets 3rd, Pred gets 2nd, and then, of course, it's, well, honestly, impressive rookie year from Pred, you got to say. Like, either 2nd or 3rd on this list, whichever way you guys want to put it. Like, I think a lot of people would say 3rd, but, you know, whatever, the story is still the same. Cell is number 1. Like, to do this in his rookie year is very impressive. And if he can have any sort of year like that again here in Modern Warfare 2, which is going to be hard to top, but it's still possible, then we shall see what happens going forwards. And, of course, Cellium number 1, as really was no surprise, the MVP of the game for this season. Make it rain, all that good stuff. And, yeah, just this to mention, I thought was pretty interesting. 2 players on the top 20 have the first name Anthony. All the others have a rather different name, but yeah, Anthony, Shotzzy, and Methods at a different part of that particular list. Just to mention this as well, because I did manage to tune into one chow that was going on between FaZe and Paris. This is on the Embassy Search and Destroy map. Honestly, doesn't look too bad. I think there's some potential here for this to actually work, especially for Search and Destroy. And, I mean, yeah, this is an early chow, 6-3 in the favor of Atlanta FaZe, with Sasha going 5-5. I mean, look, I don't want to read into this too much. It's literally one map in a scrim. TJ does go 2-9 though, and I mean, yeah, Simp and aBeZy, business as usual, going 19-9 combined. But I mean, yeah, these are 2 teams we expect to be at other ends of the league, but we'll see if that reality actually transpires. Let's talk then attachment and potential gentlemen's agreements. There's been a lot of talk about this this because the movement in this game is rather simple and base. You can't really do that much with it. So the time to kill is going to be very fast. And of course, that is pretty crucial when it comes to the skill gap within the game. We've seen in previous games, for example, Black Ops 4, when the kind of time to kill is much higher, that the players that can really shoot straight are the ones that do tend to differentiate themselves from the pack. Now, in fairness, Black Ops 4 was a bit dodgy because you had the stim shot or whatever, but in general, higher time to kill should mean you have more of an aiming and shooting skill gap in the game, and the fact that you die so quick in this game is going to make it, I think, very challenging for SMGs to try and actually position themselves at all if they're going to run into ARs on head glitches and die immediately with no movement they can really use to counter any of that. So there's a lot of talk about this. Obviously, Clay's hoping that someone's going to test out some attachments for him because there's a lot of attachments in this game, a lot of tuning that can be done on said attachments. It's tough to figure out what the actual weapons are. But Rambo on stream last night, on Zuma's stream, was suggesting the possibility of potentially gentleman's agreementing a lot of the powerful weapons in the game. What if the pros decided, you know what, let's not use the MP5, let's not use the M4 or whatever the best AR is, let's exclusively use the worst 2 or 3 weapons from each category. More recoil, higher time to kill, and therefore better gameplay. Now, would the pros agree to this even if the coaches do? That is the question.
I proposed this to the coach chat, and some of them were interested, some of them were kind of like, the players might not go about it, but if the time to kill is as fast as it was in the beta and as fast as it seemingly looks in the game, what would be your thoughts on... I mean, there's always GA weapons, but what if you just use the worst guns in the game rather than the better guns in the game?
I see what you're saying. So GA, all the really good guns, and just use like the Fugays.
Yeah, basically use the Fugays. That, like, obviously if you go in a pub and you face someone that's using, let's say, the MP5 still a goat gun, don't allow the MP5. So then you're basically increasing time to kill by having your weapons. You're increasing skill gap.
That's an interesting take. That is an interesting take.
The weapons have more recoil. And then you can also like somewhat determine like not necessarily the bouncing, but like you can make like the SMGs, you can determine which SMGs are actually good at SMG ranges and they'll have like AR range kind of.
I mean, it depends. Like, it depends how it plays out.
So a very interesting perspective there from Rambo, and seemingly maybe the OpTic guys are on board with this or whatever, and he's kind of proposed it to other coaches, and they say, actually, that's a pretty good idea. Not sure the pros would agree, though, because this is the concern. Like, first of all, you've got to find out what the powerful weapons are in the first place, and then you've got to decide to not use any of them. This is a nice way around it. The other possibility, if the time to kill is too fast, is potentially to put the health up to 130. The issue with putting health to 130 is that snipers are now ineffective. They don't work anymore. Like, well, unless you get a headshot, I suppose. So there's that side of things, I would imagine. And then there's also, you know, the amount of damage that grenades do and stuff. So 130 health is never going to be an optimal way to resolve this. That you really want to run the game as it is, but use weapons that maybe don't kill as fast. So Rambo's idea, I think, is good from that perspective. Whether the pros would want to do this, though, because we've seen in the past, even with weapons that, you know, I think Clayster even, I mean, what was there? Was it the M1 Garand or whatever back in World War II that he pulled out? That was a GA'd weapon. It was considered too strong, and still pros have broken those GAs from time to time to gain some sort of advantage. Like, do you really expect the pros would agree, yeah, let's not use any of the good guns, let's just stick to the other ones? It would take quite the discussion across the league to make that happen, right? To effectively not even decide to use the best weapons for the betterment of the competitive scene, in their opinion. It honestly would, I think, make the gameplay better and more interesting to watch, but you know, at the same time, would it really carry over because people in ranked play would use entirely different weapons? It's far from optimal. We want the game to play better without situations like this having to be described. But you know, Rambo, I think, makes a good point. Would the pros agree? I personally highly doubt it, and it might take quite some time or quite some effort to actually make that, you know, the case in the first place. I would say for year 2, it might not be out of the question. I do think that because the season starts so soon, and by the time the pros have figured out the best weapons, attachments, all this, like, the season is just about to start. So I kind of doubt there's going to be enough time to implement anything like this and get all the teams and coaches to agree. But maybe for year 2, if they think, you know what, fed up with these weapons, and let's say Infinity War don't really make any changes to the balancing, they might think, you know what, for year 2, let's just get rid of this stuff and use some weaker weapons to make things more interesting. I wouldn't put that out of the question. I think for year 1, though, it is unlikely. But I also wanted to share this. So Austin easyMac went through, and I think some of the other guys as well over at the Breakable side, and put together 20 CDL class setups. This, of course, is way too early and very early days. But if you guys are looking for something to use as it stands, well, well, Formal from OpTic Gaming Halo is using this on his M4. So yeah, I'll just scroll through some of the classes here. Everyone is trying a lot of different stuff, and I don't think anyone really knows as yet what actually is the best thing to be used, because that's one of the exciting things, in fairness, of the game being crazy, chaotic, and so complicated as it is now, is that trying to figure out what the best attachment combos are is practically impossible. Back in the day, quick draw, stock, reflex sight, you're good to go, no problem. Maybe stack a grip on there if you absolutely need it, but nowadays you've got to figure out the Chorus, Sol Dash 76, the X10 grip. Everyone's using different stuff. This is Crim's attachments, this is Cellium's attachments here on the M4, this is what Clayster's up to, he's trying his best also. So yeah, some really different attachment combinations the pros are trying out. Simp again has a completely different one. Everyone's is different here. And then this is the 74U. This is what Tupac's got on here, probably a pretty good attachment combo. Shotzzy was running this. Then you've got the TAC 56. This was Doug's one, so another one of these ARs. I think it kind of looks like the Krig. As I said, it sounds I'm not too familiar with so many of these weapons and how they're going to play out in reality, but yeah, these are the kind of classes I just thought I'd go through for you guys. This is Slash's one. This is also Slash's one on the Kastov 762. So yeah, definitely a lot of ARs that seem pretty viable in this game. The STB 556 looks like the AUG. That's what Cellium's got going on. So as I say, you can pause if you'd like to. And then some more SMGs. Actually, maybe the 74U then I just saw wasn't an SMG. I think that's an AR. So I don't know, I'm pretty confused. But yeah, the Vaznev 9K here, this is Doug's one. The Lachman sub, this is what $2 running on that. So yeah, they'll have to figure it out. But as I say, looking through all these attachments here, I guess this is the MP5. Looking through all these weapons, what are the best ones? What ones should be GA'd? Which of these could get used? Because it probably will end up as a 2-weapon meta, you would imagine, again, when like they find out the best stuff, they find out the best AR. Because with all the attachments, you can make the weapon so usable at every range that pretty much the best AR will always be utilized. But maybe it's a different story this season and we have a more interesting meta. This is also $2 sniper class as well, if you guys are looking for something to use over there. So yeah, that's what we've got on for now. The funny thing is really that like you don't want to use every attachment, because the more attachments you put on it, I do think it makes the weapon heavier. So you want to kind of not use every attachment, but use some. I think that's the way the meta's going. It's an absolute mess, to be honest. And this is the other part of it, as Clay very eloquently points out. Tuning is going to destroy me. So this is the thing with the tuning attachments. You can slide them up, slide them down, and even once you've figured out the best attachment, if you even can, then what you do beyond that is interesting. And I do wonder whether there's going to be any secrecy here, because the pros aren't usually particularly secretive about their classes. But you know, let's say someone finds something out about tuning and they do, you know, this is X% and this is a Y% on the Y-axis and the X-axis. Like, are they going to reveal that to the public? Because it's a bit of a thing in F1 esports where people really keep their setups secret and hidden from the rest of the competitors. And I do wonder whether this whole tuning thing might be the same deal, where the pros aren't really going to want to tell anyone if they find out anything interesting that might give them some degree of competitive advantage. So it does create an interesting dynamic here. And also Clay and the boys were having a good performance. This was one of the other maps they played last night, and Clay's making a nice play here. He gets this first kill, and in fairness, that kill took him like 4 bullets to get the kill, but then the second kill took him like 2 shots. So I mean, yeah, definitely the headshot multiplayer is an interesting one. But yeah, another one of these maps that honestly, this map doesn't look too bad either. So yeah, I don't know, I'm optimistic. Okay, that's the Al-Bagra Fortress one. I've got to get used to it. It's still early days here in Modern Warfare 2. Just a couple of things to close out the video here from the Esports Awards, confirming that many of our Call of Duty guys again are getting involved in the nominations here. So Miles again up for play-by-play caster. I believe he won that last year. I hope that Chance wins it for color caster this year. That would be really nice and poetic if that was to be the case. But yeah, controller player of the year, Cell, Kenny and Formal all on this one. Controller rookie of the year, Pred on there. Team of the year, Thieves. I think that OpTic Gaming are also on team of the year, but like that's OpTic Gaming, not exactly the COD team specifically. So LA Thieves are on there. And then color caster of the year, Chance, play-by-play caster of the year, Miles. And then Alleycat and Nameless both on desk analyst of the year. It's pretty cool stuff. COD scene well represented as per usual. Just to finish out with this, I know people are roasting Brian Sats for this, but look, at the end of the day, these are just the pure numbers and the reality of the lowest KDs in the Grand Final series. You did the highest KDs the other day. No issues, in my opinion, doing the lowest KDs. Yeah, okay, you might be roasting a few players indirectly, but it's just the stats, baby, and it's just cool to look at regardless. So, you know, Rambo's Champs performance always catches a fair bit of flack, but these are some of the other poorer performance in Grand Finals over the years. Even great players occasionally don't have the greatest series. I thought it was kind of funny in a way that, you know, both Kismet and Luca, 3rd and 4th, had pretty much the same KDs in the same Grand Finals on the same teams. So that wasn't so ideal. The same actually for Sender and Miyagi down here, and even at 25th place, joint 25th is a 0.72 from Bance, Nagafen and Doug Regionals 2014. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. always, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.